I want to start with a simple but powerful truth. Your value is not tied to what you do. Too often, we fall into the trap of believing that our job, our title, or our achievements define who we are. But the reality is, you are inherently valuable just because you exist. Think about it. Every day, we measure ourselves by metrics, deadlines, and outcomes. If a project succeeds, we feel worthy. If it fails, we feel less than. That's a dangerous pattern. It teaches us to link our identity to something temporary, something that can change or disappear overnight. Your job may change, your successes may fluctuate, but your intrinsic worth does not. When we tie our identity to our work, we also tie ourselves to fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not measuring up. We forget that mistakes are part of growth, not evidence of inadequacy. And the irony is that the more we chase external validation, the further we drift from understanding our true value. So how do we break this cycle? First, recognize your inherent worth. Your contributions are meaningful, but they do not define you. Your relationships, your curiosity, your compassion. These are the markers of a life well lived. Second, invest in the parts of yourself that aren't measured by output. Spend time with family, explore hobbies, learn new skills, reflect on your values. These enrich your life and remind you that your identity is broader than any role or title. Practice self-compassion. When setbacks happen, remember that failing at a task does not mean you are failing as a person. You are not your mistakes. You are your resilience, your curiosity, and your heart. The world will try to tell you that your worth is measured by what you do. But the truth is, it isn't. Your value is constant, enduring, and untouchable. And when you fully embrace that truth, you stop living for external validation and start living with purpose, confidence, and authenticity. So, I invite you today, step back from the pressure to earn your worth. Look at yourself in the mirror and know this. You are enough, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Intrinsic worth is the idea that every human being has value simply because they exist. It is not something earned, measured, or validated by achievements, accomplishments, or social status. From the moment we are born, we possess inherent dignity and importance that does not require external proof. This contrasts sharply with the concept of tying value to output, which is a mindset where a person's self-esteem or perceived worth depends on what they produce, achieve, or contribute in a professional or social context. When we tie our worth to work, grades, awards, or recognition, we create a fragile foundation for self-esteem because these external factors are variable, unpredictable, and often beyond our control. Productivity and achievements can fluctuate due to circumstances, timing, or sheer luck, meaning that if our identity is dependent on these outcomes, our sense of self can rise and fall dramatically based on events that are not reflective of our true worth. Human beings have a natural tendency to seek validation, and when society repeatedly reinforces the idea that success and productivity are the main markers of value, it becomes easy to internalize this belief. Many people grow up associating praise, promotions, or accolades with being good enough, while moments of failure, mistakes, or perceived inadequacy are seen as proof of a lack of worth. This creates a psychological pattern in which identity is directly tied to performance. This link is fundamentally flawed. A person can fail at a task, lose a job, or make a mistake, and yet remain valuable and deserving of respect, love, and dignity. Mistakes are part of growth and learning. They do not diminish the intrinsic worth of the individual. The problem arises when someone internalizes failure as a reflection of self rather than an opportunity to learn or pivot. When worth is externally defined, every setback feels personal, leading to anxiety, self-doubt, and chronic stress. People start to measure themselves not by who they are at their core, but by the feedback they receive from others or the measurable results they achieve. This external measure of value creates a cycle of overwork, burnout, and the fear of failure, because the individual feels pressure to constantly prove themselves in order to maintain a sense of self-respect. respect or acceptance. Intrinsic worth, on the other hand, is unconditional. It exists independently of productivity, accolades, or comparison with others. Recognizing intrinsic worth involves understanding that being human is enough. One does not need to earn permission to exist or to be valued. This perspective allows individuals to approach work and life from a healthier mindset. Work becomes an avenue for growth, contribution, and purpose rather than a measure of personal value. Achievements and successes are appreciated for their impact or fulfillment, but they do not define identity. This separation between personal value and external output also fosters resilience. When intrinsic worth is acknowledged, failures or challenges do not trigger a crisis of identity because self-esteem is not tied to outcome. Instead, mistakes are seen as natural experiences in the human journey. Valuing intrinsic worth encourages self-compassion. Individuals begin to treat themselves with kindness and patience, recognizing that they are deserving of care and respect, even in moments of struggle or imperfection. This mindset also promotes empathy toward others, as it becomes easier to see every person as inherently valuable, independent of their achievements or societal role. In practical terms, cultivating awareness of intrinsic worth requires deliberate reflection and mental conditioning. Practices such as journaling, mindfulness, and affirmations can help individuals internalize the belief that their value is inherent. Engaging in activities that nurture the self, beyond professional obligations or performance metrics, reinforces this understanding. Pursuits like creative expression, community involvement, personal hobbies, and relationships offer fulfillment and meaning without serving as a benchmark for self-worth. Over time, this shift in perspective transforms the way one approaches challenges, work, and interactions. People stop chasing validation to feel enough and start engaging with life in a way that is authentic and aligned with their values. Intrinsic worth becomes a stabilizing force, anchoring identity in a permanent, unshakable reality rather than a fluctuating external measure. By embracing the concept that value is inherent, individuals gain freedom from the pressure to constantly prove themselves, develop resilience against setbacks, and cultivate a more compassionate and authentic relationship with themselves and others. Identity overwork occurs when individuals tie their self-worth and personal identity directly to their professional output, achievements, or societal recognition. It is a mindset in which a person's sense of who they are is inseparable from what they produce, accomplish, or how others perceive them. This approach creates a constant pressure to perform, excel, and achieve, often at the cost of mental, emotional, and physical well-being. When identity is overlinked to work, individuals begin to define themselves by productivity metrics, deadlines, promotions, and accolades rather than by intrinsic qualities such as character, curiosity, resilience, and value. This creates an internal feedback loop where success reinforces self-worth temporarily, but any setback or failure triggers feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. Over time, the individual becomes trapped in a cycle where their mood, confidence, and sense of purpose fluctuate in direct proportion to external validation. This can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and burnout, as the person feels compelled to constantly perform in order to maintain a sense of identity or value. Burnout in this context is not merely physical exhaustion. It is an existential fatigue that arises when personal identity is tethered to impermanent achievements. People may work longer hours, sacrifice personal relationships, neglect self-care, and continuously chase success, all in an attempt to prove their worth to themselves or to society. Ironically, the more they achieve, the more they may feel an internal void, because achievements do not address the underlying misalignment between identity and intrinsic value. This phenomenon also distorts the perception of failure. In a mindset of identity over work, mistakes or setbacks are not seen as opportunities for learning or growth. They are interpreted as reflections of personal inadequacy. Missing a target, receiving criticism, or facing professional rejection triggers disproportionate self-judgment, shame, and fear. This creates a fragile self-concept that is highly dependent on external conditions. Individuals start avoiding risks, fearing experimentation, or suppressing creativity because anything that threatens measurable success is perceived as a threat to self-worth. Additionally, identity overwork undermines long-term satisfaction and fulfillment. When work and achievement define self-worth, personal growth, relationships, and emotional well-being are often neglected. Life becomes a series of tasks, performance metrics, and comparison with others rather than a holistic journey of learning, connection, and meaning. The pursuit of success becomes a treadmill, offering temporary rewards but failing to provide deep, enduring fulfillment. Relationships also suffer, as individuals may evaluate themselves or others through the lens of productivity and achievement rather than authenticity, empathy, and care. Family, friendships, and personal passions can be deprioritized because they do not directly contribute to measurable success, further reinforcing the cycle of overwork and identity entanglement. Another consequence of identity overwork is the internalization of societal pressures. Many cultures emphasize achievement, status, and productivity as markers of value, which reinforces the tendency to tie identity to work. People absorb messages that suggest they must continually prove themselves to be worthy, capable, or important. This external reinforcement makes it difficult to break free from the pattern, as self-worth appears contingent on ongoing demonstration of competence or achievement. Overcoming identity overwork requires a conscious shift in perspective and deliberate practice. It begins with the recognition that human value is inherent and not dependent on external output. Individuals must learn to separate personal identity from professional roles, titles, and achievements. Practices such as mindfulness, self-reflection, journaling, and value-based goal setting can help individuals reconnect with the aspects of themselves that are permanent and unchanging, independent of success or failure. Developing boundaries between work and personal life is essential to prevent over-identification with professional performance. Engaging in activities that cultivate self-expression, creativity, emotional connection, and personal fulfillment outside work reinforces the understanding that worth is not earned through productivity. Cultivating self-compassion is equally important. Accepting mistakes, setbacks, and imperfections as natural parts of human experience allows individuals to maintain a stable sense of self-worth even in challenging circumstances. Over time, these practices reduce reliance on external validation, diminish fear of failure, and allow for more sustainable, authentic engagement with work and life. Recognizing the dangers of identity overwork empowers individuals to prioritize balance, emotional well-being, and intrinsic fulfillment. It allows work to become a source of purpose and growth rather than a determinant of self-esteem, fostering resilience, creativity, and long-term satisfaction. By disentangling identity from professional output, people can embrace life with authenticity, curiosity, and a sense of enduring personal value that is unaffected by temporary success or failure. Redefining success means moving away from conventional definitions that equate achievement with status, wealth, or recognition, and instead embracing a broader, more meaningful understanding that reflects personal values, growth, and impact. Traditional societal narratives often promote the idea that success is measured by external markers, job titles, salaries, awards, or social standing. While these can be indicators of effort or accomplishment, they are not definitive measures of human worth or fulfillment. Relying solely on such external markers to define success can create a narrow, unstable perspective in which individuals constantly compare themselves to others and tie their self-esteem to outcomes that are often beyond their control. This approach encourages a cycle of perpetual striving, where no matter how much is achieved, it never feels sufficient because the measure of success is always shifting or externalized. Redefining success requires an inward shift in focus from what society expects to what is meaningful to the individual. Instead of asking, "Am I earning enough? Am I recognized? Am I the best?" the question becomes, "Am I growing? Am I learning? Am I contributing in a way that aligns with my values?" Success is no longer a number, a title, or a trophy. It becomes a reflection of alignment between one's actions, values, and personal growth. In this framework, success is multidimensional. It includes emotional intelligence, resilience, empathy, and the quality of relationships, which are often overlooked in traditional definitions. It acknowledges that meaningful contributions to others, whether through mentorship, acts of kindness, or problem solving, carry profound significance even if they are not publicly celebrated. Redefining success also allows for the inclusion of balance and well-being as essential criteria. Mental and physical health, time for rest and reflection, and the ability to pursue passions outside work are integral to a sustainable and fulfilling life. Success is not merely reaching a goal, but maintaining a sense of equilibrium while growing and contributing in authentic ways. When success is redefined in this manner, failure is no longer a threat to identity or self-worth, but a natural and valuable part of the learning process. Missteps, setbacks, and mistakes are understood as opportunities for growth and insight, not as indicators of inadequacy. This mindset encourages experimentation, creativity, and innovation, as individuals feel free to take risks without the fear of losing their sense of personal value. Redefining success allows individuals to cultivate a sense of purpose that extends beyond personal gain. Purpose-driven success emphasizes the impact one has on the community, family, workplace, or society at large. Contribution, legacy, and positive influence become central to measuring success, rather than just accumulation or recognition. This approach shifts focus from short-term gains to long-term fulfillment, nurturing a more enduring sense of accomplishment. Practically, redefining success involves deliberate reflection and the creation of personalized metrics that resonate with individual values. Journaling, self-assessment, and goal-setting aligned with personal principles help individuals clarify what matters most to them. Instead of adhering strictly to societal standards, people can design a vision of success that includes growth, learning, connection, creativity, and impact. This perspective also enhances resilience and adaptability, as individuals are less likely to be devastated by changes in circumstances, professional setbacks, or external evaluations. By valuing intrinsic growth and meaningful contribution over external validation, individuals cultivate a stronger, more stable sense of fulfillment. Redefining success fosters deeper self-awareness. Individuals begin to recognize their strengths, preferences, and passions independent of social comparison or expectation. This self-knowledge allows them to pursue paths that are genuinely satisfying and aligned with their identity, rather than those dictated by external pressures. It also encourages a compassionate and empathetic approach to others, recognizing that each person's journey and definition of success may differ. In essence, redefining success is about creating a sustainable, purpose-driven, and personally meaningful framework for achievement. It emphasizes growth, impact, and alignment with core values rather than accumulation, recognition, or comparison. By embracing this approach, individuals gain freedom from external pressures, reduce stress, and cultivate a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose that persists regardless of fluctuating circumstances, failures, or societal expectations. success becomes not a measure of worth but a reflection of living authentically, contributing meaningfully, and evolving continuously. Separating work from self-worth requires intentional strategies and consistent practice to ensure that identity remains independent of professional output or external validation. The first step is developing self-awareness, which involves observing thoughts, feelings, and reactions to work-related events and recognizing when self-esteem becomes dependent on success, praise, or performance metrics. Mindfulness practices, journaling, and reflective exercises can help individuals identify patterns where they automatically equate achievements with personal value. By consciously acknowledging these patterns, one can begin to create distance between professional performance and self-identity. Another practical step is establishing clear boundaries between work and personal life. This means defining specific times for work, rest, leisure, and relationships, and consciously avoiding letting work responsibilities dominate mental and emotional space outside of designated work hours. Setting boundaries also involves learning to say no, delegating tasks, and prioritizing what truly matters rather than reacting to every demand or expectation, which reinforces the understanding that productivity does not equal personal value. Cultivating a multifaceted identity is equally important. Individuals should intentionally engage in activities, hobbies, and interests outside of work that provide fulfillment and joy. Whether it is creative expression, sports, volunteering, or spending quality time with loved ones, these activities reinforce the sense that value exists independently of professional performance. They also contribute to holistic growth, resilience, and satisfaction. Practicing self-compassion is another essential step. This involves treating oneself with kindness during setbacks or mistakes, understanding that errors are part of growth rather than indicators of personal inadequacy. Self-compassion can be developed through affirmations, mindfulness, and cognitive reframing techniques, which replace self-critical thoughts with balanced and nurturing perspectives. Building a support system also plays a vital role. Surrounding oneself with friends, mentors, or peers who affirm value based on who one is rather than what one produces reinforces intrinsic worth. Conversations and relationships that emphasize respect, care, and shared experiences help anchor self-esteem in relational and intrinsic factors rather than external achievement. Reflection and value clarification exercises can further support the separation of work and self-worth. Individuals should identify their core values, passions, and strengths, and assess whether their current professional activities align with these principles. When work aligns with personal values, it becomes a source of meaning and contribution rather than a measure of worth. Conversely, misalignment should prompt adjustments or the development of complementary activities that nurture identity outside professional roles. Practicing gratitude and acknowledging contributions beyond measurable results can reinforce intrinsic value. Reflecting on small acts of kindness, collaboration, mentorship, or personal growth helps individuals recognize that impact and meaning extend beyond tangible outcomes or recognition. Learning to accept imperfection is also crucial. Understanding that nobody can perform flawlessly at all times allows individuals to release unrealistic expectations and reduces the tendency to link self-esteem with performance. Embracing a growth mindset, where learning and effort are valued more than results, further reinforces this perspective. Another practical approach is engaging in regular self-care routines that nurture physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Adequate rest, exercise, mindfulness, and leisure activities are not indulgences. They are essential practices that remind individuals that their value is not conditional on output. Work should serve life, not define it. Setting long-term, purpose-driven goals that are separate from immediate performance or recognition helps reinforce identity outside of work. These goals can relate to personal development, relationships, health, or community impact, and provide a sense of progress and fulfillment independent of professional metrics. Finally, individuals should practice conscious detachment from external validation. While feedback and recognition can be appreciated, they should not dictate self-worth. Learning to internalize a stable sense of value through reflection, self-compassion, and alignment with personal values ensures resilience against criticism, failure, or fluctuating outcomes. Over time, integrating these practices builds a strong foundation where self-worth is constant, internal, and independent of work. This foundation allows individuals to engage with professional tasks from a place of purpose, curiosity, and contribution rather than fear or obligation, creating a healthier, more balanced, and fulfilling approach to life and career.